Stop questioning whether or not your actions make a difference. It is time to step into the mindset that you can and will spark positive change at work, at home, and in your relationships. I'm Ann Vogt, your culture coach, here to help you grow your confidence and skills to lead with impact. Welcome to What If It Works? Let's create change together. But Anne, I've already told them 100 times. If you feel like you are constantly repeating yourself, this episode is for you. We are going to get into how to get extremely clear with your expectations, setting your people up for success. We're going to talk about how to stay consistent, and I'm going to give you a little secret on how to inspire your team to go one step further and exceed the typical expectation. I am so grateful you're here listening with me today. Let's get into it. This topic comes up so often in my leadership work sessions, which is clear expectations. Now, what's interesting is no one starts with this conversation of, Anne, help me set up clear expectations. But what happens is people talk about their problems and their challenges. And as leaders are expressing this to me, I start asking questions. And usually one of the questions that gets asked is, what is the expectation? And I can tell based on the leader's response whether or not I feel their people feel confident in completing that action based on how the expectation is stated. So I really want you reflecting today on what are the expectations that I have set for my people, but also how clear have I been about this expectation? Now, let's start there. Whether you are trying to get your employees to show up on time, maybe you want your employees doing more work and less chat in the office. Maybe you are doing some telecommuting and you notice that your people aren't even logged on for a portion of the day. It is time to get extremely clear on the expectation. Now, something I want you to think about is how often you are stating this expectation and when are you stating it. So I want you to think about having a fight with someone. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your child, maybe it's a coworker, and you're arguing. And in that argument, in that emotional state, you say, I just need you to show up on time. And then you let it go. And you're just hoping that through all that yelling, all of that heated discussion, you hope they heard you say, I need you to be on time. So often we think that we are extremely clear about our expectations, but if you actually took a time out, ran through the script, you would realize that your expectation is weaved in with other conversation. And for some people, that is very difficult for them to understand what you need from them. So first and foremost, we are going to get extremely clear. Before we get into some tips, I want to talk through a scenario. Let's pretend we're going to play a new game called Ann Ball. And I go through the initial idea of the game. You're feeling pretty confident that you understand what to do, and we start to play. After a few minutes, your confidence is growing because you understand all the skills, and you believe you understand how to win the game. We begin the game actual play. We're going to keep track of points, and halfway through the game, I say something like, whoops, forgot to tell you, that actually makes you lose points. So you're a little frustrated, but okay, we keep going. And a few minutes later, you believe that you've just done something great in the game. And I say, you forgot to do XYZ, and therefore you don't gain any points from that. And you are frustrated. You thought you understood how the game worked. You thought you understood what the expectations were, but in reality, you didn't. And now you're feeling frustrated. Your energy, your effort starts to go down because you don't even know how to win this game anymore. That is exactly what happens in the workplace. When you are not setting expectations that your people are clear on, they don't know how to win the game. And when you don't know how to win the game, you don't know how to put, or you don't feel like putting all of your energy and your effort into the game. This is exactly why getting clear on your expectations will actually increase the confidence of your people. Now, let's pretend you have someone who is consistently late to work. Saying things to them like, I need you to be on time, may feel like it's clear. And that's where you might say, Anne, I have told that person 100 times that they need to be on time. Maybe you need to say, your shift begins at 8 a.m. I need you to clock in at 8, which means you need to arrive in the parking lot and get into the building before 8 a.m. Is that something you can do? Now we've gotten extremely clear. We've said the time, and we've said exactly what action needs to be taken at 8 a.m. Let's say you have people chatting around the office more often than not, saying something one-on-one to each of them involved. When we are in the office, not on break, but you are clocked in and working, I need you to stay focused on your workload so that you can get your work accomplished in a timely manner and you can feel less stressed and less rushed because you will have more time, right? We are simply stating that by doing their work and less chatter, they're going to actually be able to decrease their amount of stress and get that work done in a more efficient way, right? We need to get extremely clear. Now, I've mentioned and hinted at a couple things that I really want to focus on. Think about when you are having these conversations. If you are just walking around the office and you happen to see two people chatting, and you decide right then and there, I'm going to have a conversation about how they need to get back to work, and the expectation is that they are at their desk and they are working and they can chit chat during break time. It may not be the best time to bring that up in front of the rest of the office. So simply saying, hey, Anne, when you're done, can you come speak to me in my office quickly? Thanks. Now, Anne has taken herself out of the group, is in your office, and now you can have a conversation about the expectation. And then make sure you are having it with other people who are also not meeting this expectation. We all know that we have had that boss that sends the blanket email out to everybody saying, just a reminder, you need to be working during your work time and have your weekend conversation at break. But if it is not direct, you are actually not increasing the confidence in your staff. You're probably decreasing the confidence of your staff because those who are doing their job now feel like you're calling them out when they're not the ones taking this action. And you're not holding those accountable who are not meeting the expectation. So make sure that you are having these conversations one-on-one, eye-to-eye if you can, and making it very clear what the expectation is. Now, in one of my examples, I asked the question afterwards, does that work for you? Is that something you can do? This opens up the door to conversation, which is what you want. As a leader, we want to hear the perspective of the other person, because if we don't, we're not on the same page. So making sure that you are verifying that that works for them, or do you understand why that's the expectation? We're getting extremely clear on what we want from them, why it is acceptable and why it is an expectation here. And then we're making sure that that action can take place. Let's go back to that example of the person showing up late. Maybe they can't drop their student off until 7:50 a.m. and they pull into the parking lot at 8 and they can't make it in until 8:07 to clock in. Now, I am not saying this action is acceptable. What I'm saying is this would open up a conversation about what maybe needs to be happening so that they can be at work and clocking in at 8 a.m., which is the expectation. Now, if you are at a place of work where this person could clock in at 8:15 and work until 5:15, then maybe that's a conversation you have with them and you offer that as a solution. But we want to make sure that the person agrees that this expectation can be met. Now let's jump into the hardest part about expectations, and that is the consistency in the directive of that expectation. We must be, as leaders, we must be consistent. We must be consistent with different individuals. We must be consistent on a daily basis. That is what is going to grow that confidence. It is going to grow that trust. And it's going to grow that meeting of the expectation, because as it becomes the clear expectation, people are going to start meeting it. And the people who aren't meeting it are going to notice that everyone else is meeting that expectation because it is so consistently upheld. So please make sure, whatever it is that you are going to get on the train, that this is the expectation. You stay consistent with each of your team members. You stay consistent with yourself. Because that is the number one way you are going to break trust, is when you allow one staff member to do one thing and have a different set of expectations for another. And the best part is when you stay extremely consistent with your expectations, the other people in that culture and in that environment will start noticing when others are not meeting the expectation, and they will start kind of self-ruling within the organization. I remember when I was a teacher, I had very clear expectations of work time. And every time work time was given, even if it was, we were going to work on a project every single day for 5 days in a row, I would always state the expectation. And here's what would happen. On day 3 or day 4, when someone wasn't meeting the expectation, I would not have to say anything, because other people in the classroom would say things like, hey, just remember, you can't have XYZ during work time. Or, hey, you might want to put that away because during work time, Mrs. Vogt doesn't allow blank. It was amazing that they started taking care of each other and really upholding that this is an expectation of all of us in this culture. And I want you to think about that. What if this works? What if you start holding your staff to a high expectation? You stay very consistent with your follow through. And soon it is such an expectation that others start helping the rest who are not meeting this expectation raise the bar for themselves. Now, the secret, the way you get to move people and inspire people from meeting expectations to exceeding expectations. It is all about appreciation. When you have a group of people that are meeting the expectation and you are taking notice, you are thanking them for the action linked with the expectation, you are going to start to feel and see them, your people, raise the bar themselves. It is the greatest accomplishment as a leader when you start to see people act on a higher level, not because of anything you are doing or saying, but because they have bought in to the reason this expectation exists, And they've bought into that consistency and they are confident in meeting it. And now they want to exceed it. I want to tell you a story about a Lead with Impact participant and how he really changed the culture of staff meetings using this technique. He had come to one of our Lead with Impact events, and during our problem solving time, he was talking about how he wanted his staff members, his team, to be more engaged during staff meetings. So of course I asked, well, what is the expectation at staff meetings? And we were able to workshop through what are some expectations he needs to bring to the team, get extremely clear on, and follow through with. In that same session, we had talked about this idea of raising the bar and making sure to be clear on the expectation. Then when you see the expectation being met, or you see action or movement toward that expectation, that you make sure to point it out and explain why that benefited the group. So he had gone back and done this, and a month later, he came back to the next Lead with Impact series session. And in the beginning, I always open with what has been a win from the last month. And he had put down on his Post-it that he had staff members taking the lead at staff meetings. In 1 month, that is 4 staff meetings, right? Once a week. He was able to share the expectation, appreciate his staff when they did engage, thank them for new ideas, thank them for working through challenges, and at the end of the meeting saying, today's engagement really will help us move forward. And what he saw is leaders start to emerge because they knew how to win. And I want you to think about that. What if this works? You put in the time. You think through the expectations. You clearly communicate at a time when they are listening. They are all ears, whether that's one-on-one or in a small group setting. You then appreciate as you see things happening. And honestly, they will get to a point where they are not only meeting the expectation, but inspired to exceed it because they know their actions make a difference. And that is the thing, friends. When people know that their actions create a positive impact, they are more likely to repeat those actions. So I don't want you to listen to this episode thinking this is how you can manipulate your staff. Absolutely not. This is how you can inspire your staff to impact the company, the people, or your clients in a positive way. And that is exactly what we want for our businesses, but also for our people, that they feel fulfilled, that the actions they are taking are making a true difference. I really want you thinking about the exponential results that could come from you getting clear and consistent. Think about the stress that's going to be reduced by people knowing exactly what you need from them. Think about how much more productive people can be if they know how to win. And think about what you are modeling for them to go model with others in their lives. You are going to be modeling how to be clear. You are going to model how to stay consistent and really raise the bar in leadership. And then you're going to be appreciating them, fueling them up, helping them feel valued, helping them feel trusted. That is another little piece I could throw in here. I trust that you can meet this expectation, or I trust that you can be here clocked in at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I trust that you can be at your desk working. That is another piece you can throw in there to really build that trust with that employee and build that confidence. Everyone wants to win. They want to know how to win, and they want to feel like they can win. And that is what you are going to be doing for them when you really step into setting up clear expectations. I cannot wait to hear how this changes the game for you. Please be sure to run over to Instagram, look for episode 4 of the What If It Works podcast, and drop your thoughts, your comments, and your reactions below that post. Let's start a thread all about how setting clear expectations and increasing the confidence of our team members really sets us up on this trajectory, this positive trajectory of growth. Thank you so much for listening today. At the beginning of this episode, I mentioned leadership work sessions. I just want to let you know, if you have not been to anvote.com/speaking and you are looking for an opportunity to bring me in, speak with your group, your organization, your corporation, your business, your school, there is a way for us to have a leadership work session or an impact presentation where I bring pieces of the impact method to you. We are able to work through with your staff, allow them to take in the new skills, apply them, and really problem solve with the idea of creating a thriving culture. So that is an option for you. The other thought is, you heard me talk about the Lead with Impact series. That is something I do locally in southern Minnesota. But if you are looking for the information in that Lead with Impact series, you can head on over to the Lead with Impact course. There, you are going to be able to take the information and apply it directly to your situation. The link to that is in the show notes as well. There is a way for you to create change and really step in to the leader that you know you can be. And it starts with you taking action. So I'm so grateful that you are here listening. Continue listening to the podcast. Feel free to share this with people that you know would really learn and grow from this as well. And please continue to impact and inspire change.